Gatekeepers of the Cash. Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy here, and thank you one and all for joining us this Tuesday night. I have in the co-hosting seat Chris, the comic vet. You know him, our friend from the north. How are you doing this evening, Chris?
Good. I'm good. I'm awake. I'm glad to be here. And I don't say that in jest. Usually I go to bed around 8 o'clock. So yeah, I'm here. Let's have some fun.
That's right. We're gonna stay on until Chris falls asleep and we get to watch. And our guest of the hour, Paul, Sector 2815. Paul, how are you doing this evening, sir?
I am doing well. I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for asking me to come on.
We are very excited to have you. I know Chris is. Like I was telling you backstage, I knew when I was going to have you on, I had to invite Chris on to co-host. And you guys got a good little fun history together. But before we get too far in, before we say hi to the chat, why don't you, for us, Paul, give us for anyone catching this on the rewind, because the people who know you, the people who love you will be in the chat. The people who are going to find you and become those people in the future are going to see you on the rewind. So give us a little bit about yourself and what your channel's about.
Okay. As you say, my name is Paul Cook. I am Sector 2815. I have been collecting comics for almost 50 years. I have about 30,000 comics, maybe a little bit more in my collection. I started a YouTube channel because I was watching everybody else and everybody seemed to be having so much fun talking about it. And I was having so much fun watching it that I decided to do my own thing. I am a Green Lantern fan, which explains the Sector 2815. For those of you that don't know, Hal Jordan is the Green Lantern of Sector 2814 in the Green Lantern mythos. And so I thought to myself, I wonder if that's copyrighted. Just in case it is, I'm going to go one sector over and do Sector 2815 instead.
Hey, they need a lantern too, right, Paul?
Right, exactly. Everybody needs a lantern. So I do right now. With the thing that I've been doing most is I've been doing a series with Mark from Legion of Comics. We've been doing a series of episodes called DC Comics Dark Crisis Deep Dive, where we are diving into the current DC Comics summer event. We're basically taking every single either Dark Crisis proper issue or tie-ins, going on a deep dive, talking about what it means to the DC universe as a whole, doing kind of explaining some of the callbacks to some of the history of the DC universe, and it's a fun little thing. I also do something called Guess That Key, which will be back tomorrow night. If you're watching this on Tuesday night, it'll be back tomorrow night. Which is a fun little game that we play with some guests, where it's just that we have to try to guess that key. And then I also am I can now be found on at Week's End, usually with Mark from Legion of Comics.
There you go. Expanding your YouTube. You're becoming you're chasing after Rob's goal of being on every channel.
Exactly. Yeah.
Every night of the week.
Right. All right. So let's say a quick hello to the chat. So we have Gene Mallow here this evening. Good evening, Gene. Jerry the Jitterbug, thank you for joining us, sir. We have Trev the Shipping Guru. Comic Journey, good to see you, buddy. Haven't seen you in a while. Excellent to see you. Silver Knight Kyle, who is on in 2 nights' time in the hot seat with the usual suspects.
Very cool.
And we got Kenneth Bird. And we'll keep saying hi as the chat populates. It usually takes about 10-15 before we get a nice full chat going. And then the numbers stay up there. But let's start by getting to know Paul through his comics. So, Paul, what is the first book you have to show us this evening, sir?
Okay, so when you asked me to come on, I tried to think of something that I could do, maybe a little theme or something. And so what I decided to do was you're going to see a comic from every decade, starting in the 1940s up until the current decade. So you'll see at least one comic from each decade. And so I kind of chose either my favorite or something that means a little bit more to me for each one. So we're going to start. This is from February of 1941. This is Adventure Comics number 59.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
This is the oldest comic I have in my collection, and that's why I chose this one.
Wow.
Oh.
And in a 302, what a grade for something that old.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Gary, how is this a 3-0? Like, from my vantage point, that looks
Right?
like at least a 7. Like,
I was gonna-
it's so bright.
Taking the words out of my mouth, Chris. I'm like the colors on that cover are popping. Like,
Like, I'm
is the
sure,
back cover gone? Is that the only
like,
reason I
I'm
could see
sure
it would get a
Jerry,
3-0?
Jerry's a pro at cleaning and pressing comics, but my God, how in the world is that? Someone had a bad coffee that particular morning. They graded that damn book. From like I said, from our vantage point, no way is that a 3-0.
Right. And so this is Our Man, who's on the cover of this Adventure Comics, and you can see Sandman kind of in the little picture up there. But for those who don't know, Our Man was part of the Justice Society of America. Rex Tyler was his name. He basically had this, for lack of a better term, he had hero Viagra that he would take. It was Miraclo, and it would give him powers for an hour. It gave him superhuman powers for an hour. And that's how he became known as Our Man. But yeah, this is the oldest comic currently that I have in my collection, so that's why I chose this one.
So that's the first appearance of Viagra in history.
Good for an hour.
Well,
Right?
Yeah.
Well, you know, they perfected the formula over time, Chris. The first you only got a good hour.
Yeah. Paul, what's actually the back of that book? Is it a rifle?
it is. No, it's Baby Ruth.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Which is funny. I was reading it a little bit before I signed on, and there was the coach for the New York they called them the New York Football Giants then, because there was a New York Baseball Giants at that time, so they were called the New York Football Giants. And he was extolling the virtues of eating candy for his football players, because the dextrose in the candy would give them energy. It's like, so imagine that now if somebody from if Bill Belichick said, yeah, you know, we just give our people, you know, payday bars, and that's what we do to get them going.
Right. Yeah, he'd be on the coaching bench.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, different times though. But you know, that's the fun thing about books like that too, Paul. They're such a snapshot of the time period.
They really are. And we have another one coming up a little bit later that's the exact same thing. So,
because you know, and not only with comics, but like I'm a big Robert E. Howard reader, and just reading stories from the 30s and 40s, I don't know why it just appeals to me, but it's definitely a different way that the writing is done, and the perceptions are very cool, and sometimes really off key to what's going on today, but it's all the more precious for it because you're just getting this piece of history when you're involved with it. We got all right, great book.
So again, Paul, you said 37, 1937. What was that the year of that book?
No, this is 1941. I don't have a comic yet in the 30s. I'm working on it, but I don't have one yet from the 30s.
So what month was that released in 41?
February of 41.
So that's like 9 months before the United States gets drawn into the Second World War. My God. Just to date this for everyone. Like Pearl Harbor was still on the tail end of the year, and this book is at the beginning of the year. My God. Incredible. And look, and again, how is that a 3-0? But anyways, all right.
Now, why Our Man though? Was he always one of your favorite JSA members, or?
Yeah, and you know, it was for Adventure Comics. There were two within the JSA. You had like the Flash and Green Lantern, and they had their own titles. But then you had arguably the second tier characters, which were like the Spectre and Dr. Fate and Our Man and Sandman, and so they didn't have their own titles. The Spectre and Dr. Fate shared More Fun Comics, and Sandman and Our Man shared Adventure Comics, while the Flash had his own title, Green Lantern had his own title, Wonder Woman had her own title, and so on. So this was kind of like, this was one of the titles that kind of had all the second tier characters in it.
Nice, and that's a fun concept too, because whatever he's got to do better be done in that hour. Because
Exactly.
if whoever he's fighting and he runs out of steam, that's it. He's got to escape. Like it's like built-in drama. You got to love it.
Right.
All right, excellent. Number 2, bud.
Okay, my number 2 book probably would come as no surprise to anyone, but this is from October of 1959. This is showcase number 22.
That's the one I thought we would see from him.
Exactly. This is the first appearance of Hal Jordan as Green Lantern for obvious reasons. Huge Green Lantern fan. I love Alan Scott too, but Hal Jordan was the Green Lantern that I grew up with, and so this was also my first, for lack of a better term, my first big boy book that I ever bought. So,
how long have you owned that one, Paul?
I want to say about 6 or 7 years now. It goes back.
Okay, so you got it before the COVID bubble, obviously.
Yes.
Then, okay, before everything just went, haywire, for lack of a better term. But yeah, okay, yeah. I always thought that, I really enjoyed that cover versus the clown cover. That the other one that's famous or infamous, however. But yeah, for me, if I were to chase a Green Lantern big boy book, it's the one you have in your head. It's such a cool cover.
And I love the costume on that one.
Yeah. It's timeless. There's no need to change. It worked right off the bat.
You got Comic Journey saying Kilowog is the best Lantern.
Okay.
He wouldn't come. He was about 30 years after this issue, though.
Now,
he didn't come until the 90s.
What do you think about the current state of lanterns with DC? I mean, they have a lot of lanterns now. It seems like our planet gets the most lanterns out of the solar system for some reason.
Yeah, we're not surprisingly, the humans take up the most time.
We're the most worthy. Sure.
Yeah, because we have backups, and then we have backups of backups, and then we have but there is actually a reason for it in the Green Lantern mythos. It is said that Earth is supposedly this special planet to the entire universe, and so the protection of Earth, it's the reason why whenever bad guys want to destroy a planet, they always want to destroy Earth. Okay, but there is actually a reason in the Green Lantern mythos that says that the planet Earth is special amongst all the planets.
You see, I always figured there'd be a kind of a reason, especially since there's so many super beings on Earth in the comics, right? So there would have to be something there. But all right, great history. So number 2, showcase. All right, number 3, sir.
Okay, number 3 is from September of 1961. It is The Flash, number 123.
Oh.
This is one of my favorite comics because it is the one that let the genie out of the bottle, for lack of a better term.
There's no that opened Pandora's box. There's no going back after that book.
Yep.
That changed the face of modern day storytelling forever, as far as the DC universe goes. Yeah.
If you enjoyed Spider-Man No Way Home, or Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, or Crisis on Infinite Earths, or any of the stuff where you have multiple Earths, this did it first. Okay. Because obviously what happened was there was a Flash in the Golden Age, and then DC retired him, for lack of a better term, canceled his magazine, and then came up, and Julius Schwartz, who was the editor, basically said he was in charge of reinvigorating a lot of the heroes, and so he came up with Barry Allen. A lot of it was the late 50s, early 60s. Sci-fi was everywhere, right? It was all about sci-fi. So a lot of them had scientific or sci-fi type origins, and so Barry Allen was there. But then they wanted to bring back Jay Garrick, who was the original Flash. So what they did is John Broome, who wrote this, decided to come up with this Earth 2, which is determined that that's where all of the original heroes lived, the JSA. And basically, well, the difference was you vibrated at a different speed, and that determined what Earth you were on. If you were on Earth 1, you vibrated at one speed. If you were on Earth 2, you vibrated at a different speed. So every Earth was distinguished by the speed of which your universe vibrated.
Oh, so on a molecular level there, huh?
Yep.
Nice.
So they had to go atomic.
Who was your favorite
age.
Flash?
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. And who was your favorite Flash?
I said John Broome, but this is actually Gardner Fox. After I said it, I'm like, that doesn't sound right. This is Gardner Fox, who wrote all of the original JSA stories.
Oh. And just tons of novels too.
Right. So you asked me who my favorite Flash was?
Yeah.
Actually, my favorite Flash is Wally West. Actually,
it's
just because
funny.
he seems to be the most relatable to me. Um, uh, he when Barry saved the universe in Crisis on Infinite Earths, Wally West was the Flash for 30 some years. Basically because they kept him dead. They kept Barry Allen
Barry
dead.
stayed dead for a very long time.
And I'm not surprised to hear you say that because I know a lot of Flash fans, and I didn't know there was a lot of Flash fans, but the character's been around forever. But the more I meet them, most of the Flash fans I meet, Wally West is their favorite Flash over any other.
Right. Which is surprising because whenever you see him, whenever you see him on TV or anywhere, he's always Barry Allen. And I think that's probably because, you know, for a certain generation and, for the longest time, when Barry Allen was the Silver Age, he created the Silver Age at the end of Crisis on Infinite Earths. When he died, that pretty much ended the Silver Age. Okay. I'm sorry. That ended the Bronze Age. But he was basically, when people said Flash, they thought of Barry Allen for 30 some years, 25, 30 some years. And I
And was
just
that
think
where
that,
most of the big
it's
keys
probably
happened?
easier. It's probably easier if you're going to do a TV show or a movie to have someone who's a scientist who, he has the police background. So, probably it's easier to write for him than it is to write on TV or in movies about a guy who has a family and has kids and but to me Wally West is more relatable.
Nice. And well, do you think too that one of the reasons that Barry gets more popularity is he had a large number of keys that happened during his run too? So you got all the key collectors that go towards Barry. He may not have had the better stories,
Right.
According to most people. I
Right.
wouldn't know because I've never been a Flash reader, but but that book there is a great example. But you just happen to have both two great Flashes on it.
Right.
Now, did you watch the original Flash series? Not the one that's current, but the one with
Wesley Shipp.
John Wesley Shipp.
John Wesley Shipp.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember
it was far beyond its time. It was.
Yes.
I don't think it was. It suffered from two things. I think one, it was extremely expensive to do, and it was in the '90s, and it was like that. That just wasn't. They couldn't afford to keep doing it. But two, if you remember, it also came on right at the beginning of the first Gulf War. And so it was preempted a lot. It was moved around because there was all these special reports about the first Gulf War. So it wasn't able to grab a hold or anything. But yeah, Mark Hamill as a trickster.
right.
Come on.
Let's be honest. John Wesley Shipp's suit was incredible. That was like the best costume, arguably
on TV
of the comic book media that came out in the '90s, movies and everything. It just looked good, and then we got the Ezra Miller, Flash. And then we got and he was a good actor too. On top of it all, right? It wasn't cheese, it wasn't corny, it didn't sell itself that way. It sold itself as an action drama, and I watched it. I'll admit I watched it, and that was my introduction to a lot of DC villains that I had no idea even existed because I didn't read The Flash outside of Crisis when it happened in the mid 80s. So when Barry died, then I was just like, oh, okay. And he died in 2 pages.
Mm-hmm.
When that came on too, us young nerds, right? It was like we didn't have, it'd been a while since the Hulk was on TV.
Right.
You had Wonder Woman. You had Batman. You didn't get a lot of superhero stuff. Anything that kind of came close to it, like Automan or Manimal, was less than a season and off the
Manimal, wow.
Right? So all those shows. But then Flash came out, and I wasn't a Flash person, but I'm like, cool costume. He's a superhero. And they also had Amanda Pays. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to watch for Amanda Pays too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Talk to me, Amanda. Talk to me.
Right? Great book, Paul. All right, what's number 4, sir?
Okay. Now we're up to the 70s. This is from September of 1973. Did somebody call this one too? This is Neil Adams, Batman number 271. Sorry, 251.
What a cover.
the iconic cover, right? Iconic story. Basically, took the Joker from his comedian type 50s slapstick type stuff and made him the quintessential Batman villain.
Right. They made him a
And
terrorist.
exactly. You
Mhm.
know, Neil Adams art, Denny O'Neil's story. The pair could do no wrong for the most part on everything that they touched,
I was
whether
gonna say,
it's
yeah, not
Batman or
just on
Green Lantern
Batman,
or what.
on everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. They just had that touch of gold. My
Mhm.
God. Yeah. Every time I see that cover, I just kind of stare at it. Like it's just so good. Like
I feel like it's been homaged before.
a,
Right?
a couple
Only about
times.
1,000 times,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
But it does. So little aside, my buddy Ken Wheaton, who did a bunch of our logos on YouTube and a bunch of other stuff, he got commissioned to do an homage cover to that, and in the Batman, and his cover is fantastic.
Mhm.
So it's Homer Simpson where Batman is, and Krusty the Clown as Joker.
Oh wow,
And it's fantastic. He did a great job.
that's awesome.
You instantly recognize it as soon as you see it. Like, oh, like he just nailed it. And Krusty's got the big old grin, and Homer's just all right. Very nice, Paul. All right, number 5, sir.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Someone may have picked this one too. This is from what month is? This is October of 1985.
Ooh, nice.
Boom, boom, boom. So everyone that's watching backstage, I took a guess when Paul and Gary said, "Oh, we're gonna start in the 40s and make our way forward." I'm like, I'm gonna guess every book that Paul's gonna show, and I'm doing pretty good.
You are doing pretty
I'm
good.
doing pretty good. But
You
my
are.
God, that is a 9.8. Congratulations, sir. That is a big boy book in my opinion, and my personal favorite Perez cover of all time.
You know what?
Yeah.
It's mine too.
Yeah.
It's and it's one I waited too long to get. Now it's like one of those out of reach
Yeah.
books, but that is perfect. You have that book, plus you have the one iconic Wonder Woman cover that he did. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
his Wonder Woman covers are iconic, but
Yes. And the
and
Titans
of
as well.
course his Maestro I really like too.
Yeah.
Right.
But when I think of Superman in pain, it's always this cover. It's the fact that they just kind of blacked, they kind of grayed out every other character in the background because there's so many characters in the background from the DC universe. They only left the 2 Kryptonians in full color, and I thought that was a nice touch, and it turned out to be a brilliant move in my opinion. But this, a lot of people, think, okay, yeah, the Flash died in Crisis. It wasn't just the Flash that fell. It really was a crisis, and they really wiped out a few important characters because Supergirl at this time just had her own major motion picture
Right,
that came out off the
Helen
heels of the
Slater.
strength, right off the heels of Christopher Reeve's Superman. So they continued to milk the
And
proverbial cow. But yeah,
a hard cover to get a 9.8 in. So fantastic job,
yeah,
Paul.
Thank you.
awesome.
And now, and that's the thing too, like of this era of artists, like especially too, in like with your John Buscema's and stuff, they could draw emotion on faces, which you don't see as prevalent today. Like when you saw the characters, you could feel what they're feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, just
And George Perez is my favorite artist for lots of different reasons. But I mean, the detail work that he did. I mean, he basically he left nothing. I mean, if you gave him a box, he filled up that box. You
right.
know?
This is true.
And so this
This
may or
is
may
true.
not be the only George Perez cover that you see tonight.
And not only that too, but you want to talk about the detail he put in. What about in the Maestro when you're in the trophy room of the Hulk
Oh
of
Mhm.
yeah,
Maestro in there, and you can look at that panel every time you read that book and find something you didn't see before.
I
hmm
agree.
yep.
I agree.
And
The
you know you had
and
to sit there for a day just putting stuff in there.
The the
and
JL
that's
the JLA Avengers cover that had every single Justice Leaguer and Avenger. Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
and that one.
That's a
The,
classic. That's a classic one.
But yeah, he had his I don't even know how to say. Everything he touched was just incredible. That first the first Tales of the Teen Titans issue #1 where they're all running, and then the Infinity Gauntlet as well, like with Thanos, and like there's a reason why when both publishers decided to do a big summer book or a big maxi series, they turned to George Perez. There's a reason why they did that. Right. And Paul's exactly right. Or pardon me, whichever one of you said that he'd fill the box. Not only would he fill the box, he'd take all the important characters and the B and the C level characters and fill them all there too. I think it's only now Alex Ross, in my opinion, that can mimic that same style of I'll fill it with just these grandiose images. But George was the first, in my opinion.
And when you say that too, I just lost my train of thought. But come on, I had it. I wanted to talk about it. Now, see, this is what happens when you get old. You have something to say, you wait 2 seconds, and it flies out of your mind. Yes, Perez was great at the multi-character arc, but you also had guys. You had a few back then that could draw anyone, like John Byrne. You could put him on any book. Neil Adams, you could put him on any book. Yeah. And they would just knock the character out of the park.
Yeah. Phil Jimenez, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
And also just known for being such an ambassador of the genre too in comics. Like there's no one out there with a bad George Perez story.
No, right, and the man knows how to rock a Hawaiian styled shirt. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah,
the man was a walking fashion icon, as far as I'm concerned.
And I don't think I ever saw a picture of him when he wasn't smiling.
Right.
The guy just seemed like he lived a good life and had good talent to accompany it. Yeah. Excellent book.
Okay. Number 6 is.
We're talking too much, Chris, because we're making Paul hold the book for like 20 minutes.
Okay. We're up to January of 1994. This is Green Lantern number 48.
Oh, great cover.
So this is the first appearance of Kyle Rayner, not in costume, but the first appearance of Kyle Rayner. This one I love because this is like a quintessential. I almost went with the Batman one where he's breaking the back, but then I'm a Green Lantern fan, so I chose this one instead because either one would serve its purpose for why I like this, because it's a quintessential 90s book where they said, what's the worst thing we can do to a character? They killed Superman, they broke Batman's back, they drive Hal Jordan crazy, whatever they needed to do, just so that they could have a legacy or a legacy character come in and take over, maybe just for a little while. In the case of Kyle Rayner, he stuck around for a while. He had a good 100 or so issue run, I would say, probably. With Hal Jordan still around, but they killed Hal Jordan for a while too. And then he became the Spectre, and it was just a whole bunch of different things. And but yeah, Green Lantern, favorite character. One of my favorite stories. This is the first part of Emerald Twilight, and that really was the whole Mongol destroyed Coast City, which is what drove Hal Jordan crazy.
I didn't know Mongol was a part of that. I always thought he was just tied at the hip to Superman when it came to. I wasn't aware that Mongol of that time was a part, had something to do with the Green Lantern then. Okay.
Yep.
Now, Paula, have you always been drawn to the cosmic level stories?
Not really, no. It was just something about, when I first saw Green Lantern, and it was like, I think it was because he could create something just from his mind. It was like everybody has, Batman doesn't have superpowers, but he trained, and so, but he basically, Hal Jordan is only limited by his mind.
Right.
So it was like, it's something that pretty much I felt as though anyone, could probably do if they had that miracle ring that they could put on their finger. But it was I was just drawn to that character, and then the more I read it, and then I saw Alan Scott, and I loved the Alan Scott character. Sometimes I think just because of the costume is just great. But exactly. But it's just Green Lantern I was always drawn to, so I was very happy to have that. One of the things I'm most proud about in my collection is that I have every Hal Jordan comic book from Showcase 22 that I showed earlier, all the way up until whatever was on the shelves this past week. So I have a complete run of Green Lantern from there.
Nice. Now, how
Wow.
did you feel about the Green Lantern Green Arrow series? Because that had fantastic covers too, and was
Yeah.
just two characters that were so much fun together.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, they tweaked Green Arrow to kind of get him as a protagonist almost, and as a foil for Green Lantern, but it worked so well. And again, Denny O'Neil was, he was a master at writing those, and he will tell you that not everything he ever wrote, came out the way that he wanted it to. But when he got together with Neil Adams, there was almost really, it seemed like there was nothing they couldn't do.
Now, what's your favorite Green Lantern storyline?
I would probably say it probably is the Hard Traveling Heroes, the Denny O'Neil and the Neil Adams.
Really? I would have guessed
Um,
Blackest Night.
well, that's a close second, but then
Okay.
story wise, Blackest Night was really good.
Yes.
Art wise, I would say that probably it's got to be the Denny O'Neil and the Neil Adams. But then there was a period in the 70s when Mike Grell drew Green Lantern.
Yeah.
And he's just a phenomenal artist as well.
Mm-hmm.
I did like everything that Mike Grell does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Longbow Hunters is one of my all-time favorites, done by Grell. Okay. Yep. What do we got next?
Okay. So now we're going to jump up to the 2000s. And funny, you should have done that, Chris, because I have actually. But the reason why I have this is twofold. Is because threefold. George Perez cover. How can you not? That's the first thing. How can you not just be in awe of Superman holding Captain America's shield and Mjolnir, right? But then the other reason why I like it is because this is one of my favorite comics that I own, because on the back I have George Perez remarked it.
Ooh. Oh my!
With Superman.
Wow.
So he remarked, but wait,
that is a very detailed remark too.
Wow.
It is. On the other one, he remarked Batman.
Oh wow!
Oh my God! That's
what a
awesome.
pair! Holy cow!
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are those off for grading soon?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to get those graded too, or are you keeping those raw?
I think I'm going to keep them raw because, I mean, they have a certificate of authenticity and everything, but I think they'll probably end up with, I'm afraid they will end up with a green label, and I really...
Oh, so you don't do CBCS?
You could always send it to CBCS, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so those are, and this was just a classic story as well. And I was so happy when they finally decided they were going to do this, because he had drawn like 20 some pages in the 70s or 80s of an Avengers JLA that just got all mired in politics and pissing contests between Marvel and DC, and it was like, and he's the one who suffered for it. And so when they finally worked things out and the old regime left, yes, true, I do need some clear boards for that. That would be a great idea, actually. When they, when they finally cleared out the old regime and finally had people that would talk to each other, they managed to do it, and they couldn't get two better people than Kurt Busiek and George Perez to do it.
Actually, Busiek almost seems like he gets forgotten about because of the covers that George did for that. Now, one of my favorite parts of that is when Thor is firing up Mjolnir and he's coming at the Man of Steel, and Superman just standing there, or pardon me, just floating there waiting for it, and then catches it. Like, no, we're not doing this. And then later, like, we're not, you're not hitting me with your hammer. We're not doing this. And it was just like, as a Marvel guy, I'm like, oh, that's so good. But the kid in me that grew up as a Superman fan was like, yes. But and then at the end, for Superman to be worthy enough to pick up the hammer, I always felt that was the moment that Endgame borrowed from. To me, was when Cap picks up Mjolnir. To me, it borrows from this. Like, Superman did it. And it was that same moment, like it's just Superman now. No one else is left. And he picks up the hammer. And yeah, so it was just, it's
Well,
it's iconic.
I think too, bringing that up, Chris, is there's a lot of parallels, not powers wise, but
Right.
between Captain America and Superman,
Oh,
and
100%.
being Boy Scouts and being
Yeah.
pure of heart and just generally good.
And not getting that much respect a lot from comic book readers for a very long time. And both characters suffered from bad writers.
Right.
Both what Superman suffered with Superman and Action Comics. The only thing that people talk about when they look back in the last 25, 30 years was the death of Superman.
Or mullet Superman.
And then mullet Superman afterwards. And but when Superman has a good writer that understands the character, those are the ones that become those iconic DC storylines like Kingdom Come, where the main character is the Man of Steel, but it's because there's a good writer that understands him. And same thing, Busiek doesn't get the recognition I think he deserves for Avengers JLA just because George Perez stole the damn show.
Right, exactly. Right.
Now, Paul, I did remember what my earlier question was going to be when I blinked.
Okay.
So, because you were showing a Supergirl cover of in Crisis, and
Crisis.
stuff, and I wanted to get to it. Did you read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow?
Oh man,
that was
incredible.
Yeah.
I thought it was one of the best
top
reads
5
of
stories of last year, in my opinion.
Yeah. Everyone. And also, I had to ask you, was Little Paul a big Super Friends fan of the cartoon growing up? Were you there watching every single one?
I was 8:00 Saturday mornings. I was laying on the floor like this.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
Right?
Exactly. Meanwhile.
Well, and you could instantly hear the music, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Wonder
Twins power activate.
I'm not ashamed to say that I own them all on DVD.
That's terrific.
Well, and I was telling someone on the show, because I like the character. It was a little 7-issue run, Rima the Jungle Girl.
Yep.
And she was in 2 episodes of the Super Friends.
Mm-hmm.
And they put the little odd ones in.
Right. So I had the remarks, but also obviously, he did sign it as well. It signed over the hammer on both issues, and then on the Shield, I don't know if you can see, but it says there are basically 8 of 29.
Oh wow!
So those represents how many were remarked, I'm presuming.
Correct. So he remarked 29 sets, and this is the 8th set.
Awesome.
So, okay. Next.
I think those are the first Rob books I've ever seen from Paul. I didn't know he had any.
I do have some. There may be 1 or 2, maybe 1 more. So, this is now we're up to the 2010s. This is from October 2019. This is Marvel Comics number 1000.
Oh man.
This is This is the D23 Expo edition. It's the only time so far that Mickey Mouse has appeared on a cover with the Marvel heroes.
And look at Captain Marvel right there.
Look at that. Two of the biggest franchises on the face of the earth. 2 of the biggest characters on the face of the earth are on that cover right there. Spider-Man and Mickey Mouse. Yeah, wow. Now, I've seen the black and white version. I believe it's Humberto Ramos that does the cover for that. Okay. And I've seen the black and white cover, which is, I think it's like maybe 10 or 15 copies, whatever. But this book that Paul has in his hand is incredibly scarce. Like, it's like this Marvel 1000. This is incredibly scarce. That is quite the big boy book.
Right. And not only that, the coloring job on that cover is amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah, just fantastic. Yeah, I don't know if I would have gone with that selection of heroes, but my God, it doesn't matter. It's for me, it's I see that they got the Fantastic Four logo behind Carol's right shoulder. I would have put in one of the Fantastic Four there just because they were the first. And that's the only reason why. But my God, you got Spider-Man right down at Mickey's level.
Oh yeah, you could have had Reed stretching into the picture from behind.
I was gonna say, all you need
Yeah.
is his neck coming in from here, right? Just
Right.
stretch.
Yeah. Or it could have been Ben like behind the three of them with his hands over. It could have been anything. But yeah, and it's almost unfair that we critique it because it's a masterpiece how it stands. Let's be honest. But yeah, it's incredible. Like Journey, it's incredibly scarce, and there is an even more scarce black and white copy. But to me, the colored one is the home run as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, Ramos or Ramos, however we pronounce his last name. It's just home run. That's just
Humberto Ramos,
right? And I always enjoyed the man Spider-Man. I got to admit. So yeah, to see him do two of the biggest franchisable characters on the face of the earth, the Mouse and Spider-Man.
Yeah, and I think the reason why they chose this group is because it was a D23 Expo, and these characters kind of represent for the most part the MCU, right? You have Black Panther, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, Captain Marvel, right? So they kind of at the time kind of represented the MCU at that time.
That's right. And for those that can't see, Black Panther is there too.
He is.
Yeah, he's almost lost. Sitting. Yeah, he's almost lost in it. Yeah. But yeah, that's that was, at the time when that came out, we had yet to have the Infinity War. It was Captain Marvel, and then Black Panther, I believe, had just come out at the time and was, becoming a $1 billion film, rightfully so. But yeah, what a cover. What a cover. And they have long boxes on there too. That's just so good.
Mm-hmm. And not only that, just the you got the Marvel realistic looking heroes there, but Mickey looks straight out of the Disney cartoon. Mm-hmm. So I mean, the two styles are a little bit different, but they work so well together.
Right.
And Humberto Ramos is hit or miss with me sometimes, but that's a total hit cover. Mm-hmm. All right, number 9, sir.
Okay, this is from October of 2020. So this is this decade. This is the Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin #1. This is the Peach Momoko cover, which couple reasons why this is my favorite. The main reason why this is my favorite is because this is my only 9/9 cover that I own.
It got to me that just got lost in the remark.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the cover. I didn't even look at the grade until he said
it. But there's so much going for this. Besides, I mean, it's a Peach Momoko cover, which makes it, probably more desirable. It is signed by Kevin Eastman. It is remarked by Kevin Eastman with the Shredder. No, not Shredder.
Splinter.
Yeah, Splinter. Right, with the Splinter remark, which he's not really known for doing. He'll do the Turtles, but he doesn't do a lot of Splinter remarks. And then it's a 9/9. And funny enough, I actually got this from Rob's Fat Stacks.
Oh,
I bought this off of him on Instagram.
Very nice.
Friend from Rochester, Rafi.
Oh, very good.
Great guy.
A 9/9.
Yeah, that is what I like too. Is that the mood on that cover is fantastic, and sometimes a character doesn't really fit her style, but that fits her style so well. Because when a character fits her style, it's amazing.
I agree. Peach is obviously one of those touchstone artists that people have a very strong opinion about. But for me, when she has that dark cover or just a solid white cover and she just does the watercolors, 9 times out of 10 for me, it looks good. I can appreciate it. Like I said, there are some that I'm just like, it's not for me. It's just not for me. And then there's some I got to stop and I'm like, this is a fantastic painting. And The Last Ronin, that exclusive right there, that's pretty good. There was a while there where she was just hitting banger after banger. I can remember that Star Wars magazine cover with Yoda that everyone went, bananas for. Then this one here, and then she did a couple great Spider-Man covers as well when she first flipped over to Marvel. And then it's, it's give or take. Yeah. And but that's the same thing with a lot of artists, some of them are just one of those kind of those touchstone, like you just said, Ramos. Like some of the stuff you do like, some you don't. And it's the same thing with most artists. It's just she became so big so fast, when the world stopped for a little bit of time. That's when she hit. So she just became so big so fast, and that everyone had an opinion on her.
Right. And it's amazing to me the amount of work that they can put out. Like so many covers with her, so many covers with Perillo, so many covers with San Julian, so many covers with Miko Soya, just so many covers by all these artists. And just Kurt, just so like these guys and girls, they got to be just 24/7 almost, just producing stuff. Especially with the detail and the amount of work and hours it must take to put in to make these covers.
Yeah,
and then I also think that you to your point, Chris and Gary, is she hits so fast. She hits so fast and burns so bright that Marvel was like, I can't get enough of her. Give me a variant for every single title, Beach Momoko. And so kind of was like, I think people start to feel a bit of burnout. I think people, it's almost like absence makes the heart grow fonder. It's like think of our the greatest artists aren't ones that pump out work 24 hours a day.
You're right. Like how often do we get Lee Bermeo stuff? Right. If we're lucky, maybe 10 to 12 times a year. Sometimes when we get same with Jenny Frison, if we want to talk about female artists. But to me, the master, Alex Ross, how often do we get a Ross cover? Maybe once a month if we're lucky. Right. And usually it's something that's iconic, and it's usually something that's not necessarily an A-list character. Like lately he's been in a lot of Iron Man and Captain America, right. But how many people are picking up Iron Man and Captain America is my point. Right.
See, and I've been loving the Jen Bartel covers too.
Yes, and Natalie Sanders.
She-Hulk's amazing.
Yeah, Natalie Sanders is another fantastic artist. Yeah, that's Paul. What's on the back of that cover, by the way?
Just an R.
Okay.
Ronin.
Yeah.
It's for, if I didn't know, but I think this was a Robin.
Right.
Yeah.
I was thinking Raphael, but.
Yeah. Sadly, Raph doesn't make it out of this book.
Right. Yeah. Oops.
Yeah, that's great. I'm still chasing a 9.9 for my collection. I want to get it naturally through sending stuff in. So I keep hoping one day I'll get a book back. It'll have that 9.9. But who knows?
You need to throw an acetate cover on it first and then send it in.
Right?
Too soon. We're not going to have any of that talk here. Too soon.
Right? I'd stayed away from that acetate gate up until now on my channel. All right, number 10, Paul.
Okay, number 10. So I covered all the decades for the comics that I have. So I went back again to one of my favorite artists who you may or may not see again, who you all know. And Chris, you mentioned this as well. This is the New Teen Titans #1.
Yes.
So one of the reasons why I love this is not only just because this is the book of my childhood. This is the book that I remember most from my childhood, and so that's why I really love it. But there's a great story with George Perez behind this book. George Perez was working for Marvel at the time, and he was going to come over to DC. And when he was coming over, he wanted to do the Justice League of America. That was the book that he really wanted to do, because he thought it would be a nice compliment to his having done the Avengers. Okay. So at the time, there was a gentleman who was drawing Justice League of America. His name was Dick Dillon, and had been doing it for 15, 20 years. He'd been drawing the Justice League of America. So basically what DC said to him was, we have Marv Wolfman is going to put out this new book. It's called The New Teen Titans. Why don't you do that first? And then if Justice League of America ever opens up, we'll then move you to Justice League of America. And so George Perez took the assignment, thinking it was only going to last for 6 months. He took the assignment. He fell in love. Shortly after he started this, Dick Dillon unfortunately passed away.
Yes.
he ended up drawing both Justice League and New Teen Titans at the same time.
Because he couldn't lead the Titans, huh?
And then it got to be
Cyborg.
too much. And although he originally came wanting to draw Justice League of America, he had fallen in love with New Teen Titans, and that's where he stayed.
Nice. What a great story.
How long was his run on New Teen Titans?
Well, they took a break to do Crisis on Infinite Earths, but he had off and on, I want to say he probably did about 50 or 60 issues to start. And then he came back and he did
like he did the Nightwing stuff, like
correct,
right,
yeah. Right. They actually started a second title on the new paper called Baxter Paper. He joined Marv Wolfman for that for the first 4 issues, and then he came back to do a Who Is Donna Troy. So he came back on and off to do some certain things, but he had a good, I would say, total. He probably had maybe a 70 to 75 issues spread over multiple years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He loved Cyborg. That I know for a fact.
Mm-hmm. Now, who's your favorite Titan, Paul?
I like Robin, Nightwing, Dick Grayson. Whatever. I liked him when he was just Grayson, even though a lot of people didn't really like him. But when he was in Spiral, so Dick Grayson has always been my favorite Titan.
And favorite Titan storyline?
Has to be the Judas Contract, I think.
I thought you were going to say that. I was waiting for
yeah.
It's the most famous one.
Yeah.
Well, for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah. My introduction to the New Teen Titans was the crossover with Uncanny X-Men and the New Teen Titans. That green cover where again everyone's running, and that was my introduction to them. That was more early-ish 80s. Yep. So I guess after this had come out. Yeah.
Chris Claremont and Walt Simonson.
Yep. Yeah, that was and what turned me on to that was because that's when I discovered Simonson, and then he went on to do X Factor, and at the time I was doing Thor, and that was my introduction into those characters as well, and of course Beta Ray Bill. Yeah, that's a hell of a number 10.
Right,
hey, Gary, that's a hell of a number 10.
It sure is. That is, I'm not even a big DC guy, but like the DC covers you showed tonight, just amazing. Especially the Crisis. But all right, so what's your 11th with a personal story attached?
My personal story, okay. Not surprisingly, I just showed you New Teen Titans number 1. My story is New Teen Titans number 2, which is the first appearance of Deathstroke. This actually has two things. There are 2 stories that I want to tell about how times have changed, and that's my story. My first story is how I got this book. When I was young, my brothers used to play baseball, and I was the youngest of 6 kids. So my brothers played baseball. I was a little bit too young to play. I played eventually, but I was more into comics than sports. But my brothers played. My sister played softball. So my parents were running all over town, dropping people off, picking people up, whatever. So the part that would never happen anymore is what I would ask my parents to do is I would ask them to drop me off where my brothers were playing baseball, because a mile down the road from where they played baseball was the only drugstore I knew that sold comics. Oh. And so they would drop me off at the baseball field. They would leave. Okay. And then I, by myself, would walk a mile to the drugstore, use my allowance, I can recall buying this book, walk back another mile, and wait for my parents to pick me up. So, I mean, nowadays, my parents probably would have been arrested for child endangerment. For leaving me all by myself and then letting me walk a mile, down the street with, anyone could come and get me. So, so that I can clearly remember. I used to do that all the time. It was the only reason I went to the baseball games was I wanted to walk to the drugstore to buy my comics.
It's okay to have an agenda.
Yeah, exactly. And then the second thing that is stuff that wouldn't happen anymore. And you guys were both on the Slab Hub that I did. Is the advertisement on the back has O.J. Simpson in dingo boots.
Go Bills.
Yeah. So some things age better than other things. This back
Right.
cover has not aged very well.
Yeah, I prefer the Dr. J Spalding back ad from those times, the 70s, and that one, and the early 80s. But yeah, it's OJ. Like,
There you go. Hey,
Yeah, he was everywhere.
the glove didn't fit.
but the boots did.
Right.
Well done, sir. Well done. That's a good
Nice.
story. That's a good story.
But still, great cover. I always liked on that cover too the way Raven was portrayed on that cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's off to the side with everyone else, and all the other are. If the boots don't fit, you must have quit. I like that.
Now, I have to say, my favorite Titan is Starfire, but I
Okay.
also like the original Starfire better, the one that had the 8-issue run. That was I think Paul probably knows who I'm talking about.
The Steve Ditko one, right?
Yeah, she was a warrior.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, that one. Okay. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, not Steve. I can't remember the art. Was it Vosberg?
Mike Vosberg.
Yes. But Lady Fantastic is going to make fun of me because I brought up Vosberg again. But I think he's one of those unsung heroes in comics. But yeah, great stuff. All right, so what is the spec pick that Paul has for us this evening?
Okay. This I'm going to preface this by saying I hope this is still a spec pick, because who knows what's going on with Warner Brothers Discovery. But this is Infinite Crisis #3. This is the first appearance of Jaime Reyes, not in the
Oh,
Blue Beetle costume, but the first appearance of the character Jaime Reyes,
Right.
who is supposed to appear in a Blue Beetle movie, assuming that it is still being made somewhere.
and doesn't
Yeah.
become a tax break.
Right, exactly. And this
Yeah,
is my favorite cover. This is actually the second printing. It's the Jim Lee sketch cover, but this is the
Okay.
second printing.
Very cool. Very cool. Again, another artist that we don't get that much from anymore. The way that he used to pump out work. But yeah, I remember recently seeing the stills from the Blue Beetle set, and that costume looked terrific. Yeah, and they went and hired the young actor from that new Cobra Kai series to play him. And yeah, so I hope that it moves forward. I hope they finish it and they release it properly, because again, a lot of these B and C list characters, when they're introduced to the big screen, they kind of do well. Like, again, like all you have to do is look at Guardians of the Galaxy. Did anybody, even in who reads comics frequently, did they have any idea who Groot was? Did any of them have any idea who Rocket was? You know, obviously some people, if you paid attention to the first appearance of Thanos, you knew who Drax was. But again, Blue Beetle could be one of those types where if it's good writing and good action and it doesn't go over the top camp, it could be really, really good. It could be really, really good. And I sincerely hope they don't pull the plug on it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know I get what Warner Brothers Discovery is doing, but you can't have a breakout movie if you never release anything.
Right.
Give it a chance.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering, like with the Batgirl, we're going to see that at some point. I'm just wondering when. There's no way that they're going to just never release it.
Well, I think
not with Keaton in it. Mm-hmm.
But I think they have to not release it because they're using it as a tax write-off, and they're using it in a certain merger acquisition tax write-off. They're basically saying that they're changing course.
Right.
Okay. So if they were just not to release it, if they were like to have it sit there and then not release it like 4 months down the road, they could only claim so much as a tax write-off. Because they're still within a window from when the merger took place, they can actually write off the entire amount as just a change of course. Wow. So there's like the window ended like mid-August or something like that. I think it was. There's a certain window within acquisitions and takeovers and mergers that you can do that and get a higher tax benefit.
Now, with this change of place with Zaslav there and him trying to right the ship that's DC, They've had some hits, they've had some misses. But what is it? Because just being the major DC fan that you are, what is it you would like to see from DC proper moving forward as far as film and TV goes?
I'm less concerned with. I mean, it's wonderful that you have a 10-year plan, but I'm less concerned. Really hope that they don't try to just mimic what Marvel has done, because they're not
Right.
Marvel. You
No,
know,
you need your
they're,
own
they're
feel.
going to be Marvel. You know, I'm okay with having. You know, I was okay with Batman. I was okay with Joker. You know, it doesn't need to fit into a nice, nice square peg into a square hole for me. You know, if
It
it's a
doesn't
good
have to be a
movie,
30 movie arc.
yeah. I mean, do I care that the Joker didn't reference, Bruce Wayne, or maybe he did just through the fence there, he saw him, but, you know, do I care that he didn't fall into a vat of acid and instead this is the way he ended up being the Joker? You know, I'm less tethered to canon than I think some other people may be.
Right. Well, and the thing with canon too is it's still there if you want it. You just got to go
Right,
back and read it. It doesn't change the books that you've loved to have something different.
right. And I mean, we have, the we have multiple Earths. You know, that Joker does happen on a different Earth. We'll get to the one where he falls in the vat of acid. Don't worry about it. Okay, but that one just happened to occur on a different Earth.
Yeah, we'll
You
see
know,
we'll see the follow from that when Flashpoint hopefully gets released.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
I don't care what they do as long as they bring back Cavill as the Man of Steel.
Mm. Yeah, just I mean, everything I've been reading, it seems like it's less and less likely, but I hope so
Like
too.
it's
I
like a
really
roller
like him.
coaster with that guy. It's
now,
1 month he's back, next month he's not. So we'll see.
Right.
and that's not by his choice. He would love to keep doing it.
Oh, of
Yeah.
course, yeah.
Now, what do you guys think if he ended up at Marvel as Sentry?
Yeah, I've read that online too.
God, I hope
I,
not.
yeah,
Like you don't go from being the Man of Steel to go over and play Marvel's Superman, right? Like I'd rather
right.
see him as Captain Britain. I'd rather see him as
Oh,
Braddock.
that would be great. I would
I'd
love to
rather
see him
like
as
okay,
Captain Britain
like that
or
way we don't
Union
have to hide
Jack.
his accent, right? Let
Right.
him speak naturally. And like
Right.
let's admit he's built like a brick, you know what. So he can be any of those big men that that Marvel wants. But to me, if he makes that crossover, there's no going back
Right.
to the Man of Steel. And the thing is, they had a good Man of Steel in Brandon Routh. They gave him a lousy script. You know, they've had a few good Man of Steels. Now they went and hit a home run with Cavill, and they're dropping the damn ball. As
Now,
far
you
as I'm
see,
concerned.
I liked the Man of Steel, but I didn't like it like everybody else loved it.
Okay.
But the one thing I did love about it is I thought Henry Cavill was a great Superman. The one thing I regret in the DC movies, and you only got a glimpse of it in the Justice League movie, is he never got to play the Boy Scout Superman. When you saw a flash of him doing it, it was perfection. And it
I
was
agree.
kind of like on a Christopher Reeves level when you saw him start to do it.
Right. You know,
And I
the
feel bad
fire in
for him
Mexico.
too because he was investing himself in this character so much, and he never got to go to that story arc where he played the Boy Scout.
Right.
Yeah, that was the one thing I really didn't like about Man of Steel was I wish they had found another way, and it would have messed with the rest of the movies. But Superman does not kill people.
Right.
You know, that's the one thing. If that was Wonder Woman, yeah,
He
you
didn't
know,
kill a human though. He didn't kill a
yeah,
human.
yeah, it's true. Um, but one of the things. I mean, Superman always finds a way. It seems like to not
But
have to
yeah,
kill someone.
for me, the moment that sealed Cavill as the Man of Steel was in Batman versus Superman when everyone's hating on Superman and he arrives at the Capitol and walks in to face the music when he doesn't have to do a bloody thing. He doesn't have
Right.
to answer to anyone. This is Superman we're talking about. And he still goes in and goes to speak. And then Lex Luthor blows the whole thing up and wipes everyone out. And there's Superman in that second with his eyes closed, like I just got beat, and I never saved a soul, and the fire and the explosions happening around him, and there's nothing he can do. That to me was that moment. Okay, he's nailed Superman here, because the Man of Steel would ache over the fact that he didn't see this, and more importantly, he didn't have a chance to help a single soul in there. And Luthor bested him, and the look on Cavill's face, even though most people pan Batman versus Superman, that moment to me was the one that sealed it. And Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent was just perfect casting as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, and then we got to see just one or two moments, like Gary talked about, where Superman was the big blue Boy Scout, where he went to Mexico and he saved that those people in that fire. We didn't have enough of those moments where it's just Superman being Superman, just helping the everyday person, around Metropolis, around the planet, where something's going wrong. We even Brandon Routh had more of that than what Cavill's had, because Routh stopped that bank robbery, landed the plane in the middle of the baseball stadium, which I think is the best Superman scene of all time, when he catches that plane and puts it down in the baseball field. But yeah, that's to just hijack all of this.
Yeah.
They DC, the DCEU, whatever they do moving forward, they got to keep Cavill as Superman. They got the casting. They got someone who wants to play him, and they got someone who knows how to play him at this point now. Doesn't matter who the director is, whatever. If The Rock wants him to come forward, if The Rock wants it. I think they're trying to create a negative spin right now to make it seem like there's no way where Cavill's ever coming back, and then we're going to literally see him in a post-credit scene or whatever, somewhere attached to some film, whether it's Black Adam or the next Shazam movie. We'll see Cavill, and it's going to be like, all right. And then the DC hype train is off and running, at Mach 5.
Hopes. But that's what Soups is about, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, goodness. Wow. Well, good DC discussion. Just, Paul, great episode. Fantastic book, sir. Thank you so much for showing those and bringing them.
Thank you again for having me. Hey.
Oh yeah, I love the theme. The one from each decade was brilliant on your part, and you got the comics to back it up. But a little disappointed there was no Conan in there, but I'll let you go.
the crossover,
right? I pick. But fantastic. We'll start our wrap up here. And Chris, what have you got coming up for you, sir?
Well, tomorrow I have an open invitation for a new comic book day hangout. Show us what you got. Anyone who's watching, and obviously the offer extends to both of you fine gentlemen. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be going live on my channel just to show the books that we picked up for New Comic Book Day. At some point this week, I do plan on doing another walking tour for Canada's largest Comic-Con. Fan Expo Canada is returning to Toronto this weekend. I know Fan Expo now is in a bunch of different cities across the continent, both in Canada and in the United States, but don't kid yourself. The Toronto one is the crown jewel of the Fan Expo lineup. It's where it started. It's the one that they most heavily invest in. And I'm planning on doing a walking tour, and just to show everyone just a small snippet of Artist Alley, and then some of the fun pop culture things that'll be popping up in it, and hopefully to show some of the celebrities that show up as well for that. And then Saturday, only slabs, and Sunday, two cool guys, two hot picks, and hopefully I'll be on at week's end, maybe with this fine gentleman again.
Thank you, Gary. Coming up on my channel, we
Fan
have
Expo really does do a great job. Fan Expo does a great job. They do MegaCon here in Orlando too. They do an incredible job.
So we got Silver Knight Kyle coming on in the hot seat with the usual suspects Thursday. We have Nick's Kicks and Comics on the Saturday edition of the 1011. Then we have Eddie from the Batcave on the Tuesday edition of the 1011. And in a couple weeks, you just saw Mars on the 1011. She is going to be on In the Hot Seat. We also have Candace coming up. Got some more stuff coming up with Haley. Shy Comic Girl. So we got a lot coming up on my channel. And, of course, Savage Saturday Comic Review coming up. You'll see me on Chris's channel tomorrow night. And, Paul, what's coming up for you, sir?
You've got a packed agenda there, Gary. That's incredible. That's great.
I'm scheduled for 2 months out.
In mere moments, I will be appearing on Legion of Comics. We'll be doing a big time collectibles convention mystery box opening. So I'll be doing that. I believe that's at 8:30 Eastern. Tomorrow night we have Guess That Key, where we'll have it's at 9:30 Eastern. We'll have Jake and Jesus from the Spec Tales podcast, as well as some other folks as well. And then the next time we get Dark Crisis issue that comes up, we'll follow up a few days after that with our deep dive. So we got lots of good stuff coming up as well. Nice. Again, thank you so much. This was so enjoyable. I really love this.
Oh, thank you for coming on. I've been wanting to get you for a while. The stars finally aligned for us. It's been great. Super fun. I want to thank the audience who showed up and supported Paul tonight and supports my show. Thank you guys very much. And I want to thank all of you guys who voted the 1011 for a surprise nomination. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. The show's still young, and it got in on the awards somehow. So thank you, all you guys who watch. And the show's been catching fire. I have a ton of fun doing it. And, I got great co-hosts, which help me get through each one. It's part of the fun of doing these shows is having a co-host. I could do them solo. It's always fun to have a buddy with you. It doesn't matter. And I think it's a better dynamic for the guests too. And it's just so much fun. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you, all of you who are watching this on the rewind. And until next time, keep it casual. Attention all, use channel sponsor Rogue Trader at theroguetraderutah.com and my code Keep It Casual for 10% off your comic cleaning and pressing needs. Remember, when submitting your books to be graded, use a trusted professional.